And just like that, fellow EV enthusiasts, we have our first drop in EV demand in 14 months. Let's go ahead and get into it. It's my intention to be as objective as possible with this video. As an EV enthusiast, I have to concede that's likely not going to be completely accurate. There's going to be some bleed through. That's inevitable. I try to stick with the data, though, and just go where the data, tell the story that the data has. And I'm not trying to cherry pick stories either. The truth is that there's no way of explaining the current dip in EV demand as a good thing. According to S&P Global, as reported by Automotive News, this is the first downturn in 14 months of an uninterrupted upswing of EV sales numbers. So we have a year-over-year decrease. Now let's go ahead and get into exactly what we're looking at, because this is not unique to the United States. We might say that because President Trump was elected and the bully pulpit effect, that there's been enough political headwinds where even though laws have not changed yet, that the populace in general has been dissuaded from EV purchasing. That's basically the narrative that is coming through, but not in Canada. Canada has also seen a dip. And what happened in Canada, there was the $5,000 federal tax credit that ended. And for instance, British Columbia, which is one of the bulwarks for EV adoption, they were up around 24% of new car sales being fully battery electric, and they dipped to 15, which is a significant decrease. So it's not just in the United States. We also saw in Germany, when the federal subsidies were removed, a major decrease in sales. Here in the United States, we have not actually had the federal subsidies removed, but it's inevitable that they will be. It seems as though I can't imagine any scenario where that $7,500 tax credit doesn't go right away. Right now, we're trying to keep the federal government from doing a punitive tax against EV ownership as well. And we'll see if that actually sustains or not. So, all those headwinds being what they are, political and lack of subsidies having an effect on the sale of electric vehicles, it's definitely an era of decrease in EV adoption. And you could say that there was a artificial inflation of electric vehicle adoption as a result of the subsidies that are now getting soon to be taken away in the United States and already taken away in Canada, similar to what happened in Germany. A couple of bright spots, though, and this is where I like to, in my opinion, I'm not concerned about this at all. I still think it's inevitable that the electric vehicle is going to be the de facto choice for private transportation in probably less than 10 years, if I had to guess. And it's unstoppable at this point. Specifically, the International Energy Association put out a graph where the price of battery packs for electric vehicles is plotted. Now, this is really where, in my opinion, it's unavoidable. Robert Llewellyn from the All Electric or the Everything Electric channel mentions that people who are affiliated with the fossil fuel industry are what, in his words, are perma-screwed. They have no way out of the fact that battery prices have dropped to a point where electric vehicles now become a economic decision, not really a political decision. And there could be temporary headwinds in one area, and it's kind of like a weeble wobble, but they don't fall down, or a whack-a-mole sort of thing where you're trying to sustain something that is just a eventual overtake of the internal combustion engine with an electric drive train. Okay, so just a couple of points here before I pull up the graph. It's being reported that CATL's sodium-ion battery could be as low as $10 per kilowatt hour. Let's just put that into perspective. The first Nissan Leaf in 2011 was said to have $1,000 per kilowatt hour, and we're not talking 10. Now, even if that sodium ion thing just don't work out, right now we're somewhere about $120 per kilowatt hour, sometimes as low as $100 per kilowatt hour. So that's a tenfold decrease from the first Nissan Leaf. And prior to that, in 2010, as best as I could tell, it was $1,400 per kilowatt hour for a automotive grade battery pack. And now we're down to, let's just call it $100 per kilowatt hour, and potentially if that sodium ion thing at CATL's factory actually starts mass producing and it catching on, as low as $10 per kilowatt hour. What happens there is it's just inevitable that things start shifting. In China, there was a lot of hoopla that the Chinese population was switching from battery electric to plug-in hybrid, and that has since ceased. Battery electric has again overtaken plug-in hybrid as the more popular drivetrain in order to go to. And I suppose we could argue what the benefits and disadvantages of plug-in hybrid over full battery electric, and there's the range issue, but the complexity of adding on an internal combustion engine or a range extender, depending on the way that it's being configured, versus the simplicity of a pure battery electric drivetrain. But regardless, I think we're looking, it's one of these situations where we're in a environment where it's kind of hard to see the forest for the trees. Although in the United States, electric vehicle adoption had decreased year over year in the month of April, as being reported by S&P Global through Automotive News, and in Canada, sales have plummeted as well as a result of the removal of the federal subsidy. Similar to what happened in Germany, there was then a rebound. Once the market started to reassess the benefits of electric vehicles, and they just started to stand on their own without the subsidies, and the consumer market just adjusts to the new normal of the lack of subsidies. And then in Germany, they started to pick up again. So you see a temporary decrease, but on a global stage, electric vehicles are still steadily increasing, and it's all tied to the price of batteries. Batteries continue to decrease in price, automotive grade batteries and the battery packs that they go into. As a result, the electric vehicles become much more attractive. We just saw a refresh of the Nissan Leaf review done by Cal Connor, and he seems very enthusiastic about the third gen Leaf having a 75 kilowatt hour battery pack available to it, and actually able to precondition on the way to charging stations and have over 300 miles of range. Who would have thought? And it's conceivable that that will be a $30,000 to $40,000 car as it hits the American market. Many other lower cost cars are now coming into the market as well. Tesla has a long hailed lower cost model soon to be coming out. It's said to be in the second half of 2025 this year. And the crown of the low-cost cars, I personally think, is going to be the next generation Bolt, which in the Kansas City plant that General Motors operates is going to start to be produced later this year. So we've got the Bolt, we got the Leaf, and we got the decreased cost Tesla is getting ready to enter the mix. And there's really no way that with those cars available that electric vehicles will continue to see decrease in sales. My personal opinion is we're going to see a pretty hefty spike even if the federal tax credit is removed. And Canada likewise will very likely start to see increases as well as these lower cost models start to get into the mix. And as I said, this is really all tied to the price of batteries. We recently saw information from General Motors talking about shifting production locations in order to help follow the current political winds that are giving direction for building things in the United States and tariff being the new normal. But in those press releases that were put out, there was mention of a next generation low-cost electric vehicle. So there's the Bolt, But then GM also has something else slated for the Kansas City plant that will be the next generation, even past the Bolt, the next generation low-cost electric vehicle. Now let's talk about General Motors, because although there's been decrease in sales, the one company that is bucking the trend is General Motors. They have become the #1 electric vehicle company in the nation of Canada. Tesla has fallen to 8th place. GM is now #1, and GM is saying that the Chevrolet Equinox, currently the #3 selling electric vehicle, could be #1, unseating the Tesla Model 3 and Model Y in the United States. That's what they're trying to claim. Now, one thing that's a bold claim, and I don't know if that will happen, but one thing they do have going for them is inertia. They have doubled their EV sales figures in 1 year. So in an environment where electric vehicles have decreased in year-over-year sales numbers, General Motors, as the collection of brands or portfolio of brands that they bring to the table, has increased to the tune of 100%. So they do have, I guess, some sound basis on which to claim that they may have a strike at the title for the first place for the highest selling electric vehicle in the United States, and they're saying that will be the Equinox. My personal opinion is once the Bolt gets done in production, that very likely, as fleets start to purchase it in volume and the broader consumer market as well starts to latch on to the Bolt, and I'm assuming it's going to be moderately priced, less than the Equinox, it will very likely be a very successful car as well, likely winning its segment easily. So all these things combined, my personal opinion is, although we are officially in a year-over-year decrease in the sale of electric vehicle numbers, or how many electric vehicles is sold. This time last year, more electric vehicles were sold, so if you plot it out, it's a lower number. It's not the trend globally. In my personal opinion, this is all being driven by the price of batteries, which continue to decrease. Newer, lower cost models are soon to be released into the consumer market, and I don't have any concerns that the electric vehicle will have a postscript written on it come 3 years. And quite the contrary, I would imagine 3 years from now, the electric vehicle will be approaching 30, 40, perhaps even as high as 50% of car sales. According to previous forecasts, the worst case scenario is 25% of new car sales will be electric in 2030. And those have been adjusted as time goes on. And my personal opinion is you have to watch the price of batteries, because that's really the only thing that reliably helps predict where this is all going. Anyway, bad news, but a little bit of silver lining in the midst of it. Thank you very much for watching.